And they saw it, you know, because you're in great shape and everything, you have low priority
Okay.
on the operating. Well, there I am. Walter Reed, there were 4 beds there, at the time. Actually, there was three of us were, they put me in a room with a guy, warrant officer, that John Tom was named, caught a round that went right behind his left ear and out his nose, and it blinded him in one eye, and it had very loss of vision in the other. Young warrant officer. Well, John and I became his seeing eye dog, and we became really good friends. And we would take on Washington. I'd take him to restaurants when he got bed check or things like that.
Yeah.
And there was one Friday nights were good at the Officers Club at Walter Reed back then. So we went there one time, and he sat in the corner, and of course we had a few, and then I was talking to a couple of nurses and everything. I went back, and John was gone. I thought, oh man, I should have kept a closer eye on him.
Yeah.
Shame on me. Well, anyhow, when I got back to our room, he was in bed. I'm really glad about that. In the morning, he got up before I did and left. I could sleep in a little bit. It was Saturday. And I went by the nurse's station, and one nurse was saying the other, they said, "Did you hear about John Todd last night?" No, MPs picked him up. He said he was leading 2 other guys from the Officers Club back to the ward that we were staying on, and they were all tapping their canes, and it was raining, and all singing Three Blind Mice.
That's funny.
Seriously.
That's awesome.
and Todd, Todd and I, and so anyhow, when it came time, it took almost a month before they got to me, and so when it came time for, oh, by the way, Nurse Pam,
Yeah.
she found out I was in the Walter Reed again, and I think she was married or engaged then. Okay. Well, anyhow, she stopped in to check on me, and so and we chatted a little bit. But when they came to take me to do the put the plate in my head,
Yeah.
well, right before, right before the operation, a couple days before, I met the neurosurgeon that was going to put the plate in my head. His name was Dr. Slaughter. Great name.
Yeah, great name for a surgeon.
And we are standing in front of the nurse's desk, and he started, in essence, chewing me out about wanting to get this plate. He says, "I know why you want this plate put in your head, so you can go back flying. I wouldn't let you fly over my house with your head condition." And I'm, boom. Finally, it was a captain, male nurse, and separated us.
Yeah.
I mean, and when he left, I said, "What's his problem?" And the male nurse said to me, "Mike, you're one of the few guys that came out okay, and you want to go back and do it again? That's what he's upset about." Okay.
That's a legitimate.
That's legit. Okay. So anyhow, now the agreement was right before they did put the plate in my head. They were going to run that experiment.
Right.
And so they're hooking me up. They got tubes running in and out of me. And what it is, they ran a tube right into my heart where they pumped the drug in directly. And while they were doing this, my nurse Pam stopped in and asked John where I was at, and he told her, and she says, "Hey, people die from those procedures." He's nuts. You know. Well, anyhow, the guy that's putting it in, okay, finally, they ran the experiment. Now it's time to anesthetize me. And this guy behind the mask and glasses says to me, "How was the grass in Vietnam?"
Wow.
Seriously.
That's great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, by the way, my first tour at Walter Reed,
Yeah.
the first time, they showed the movie MASH at the theater,
Okay.
at the Walter Reed Theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how crazy it was back then.
That's awesome.
Yeah, anyhow, so they put the plate in my head. Yeah, I have, I had to spend a few days, and then they gave me, I think it was 10 days leave. I went back and,
Was that part of the extended?
yeah,
Okay, good.
yeah. So I went, of course, now I had this thing. My bar was Harry's Tavern in Harrisburg.
All right.
And so they knew me before I went in the service, and the bartender, in fact, the bartender was stationed at New Cumberland Army Depot, and worked there part-time. And then when he got out, he became full-time. And when I told him I had flunked the physical, he said, "You should have let me, or not the writ, I mean, you should have
Right.
let me know. I would have taken care of that for you." Anyhow, so went back there, and I remember one night I was going to Harry's Tavern. It's a Saturday night, and in Savannah I became friends of a guy who owned a men's haberdashery. Yeah, I bought really good clothes and things. So
Okay.
I put on a three-piece suit, blue shirt with a tie, and I had this shaved head. And so I found a golf hat, one of those short brim golf hats around
I know what you're
that
talking
matched
about.
my shirt.
Okay.
And so I went and sat down. The place is packed on Saturday nights. Well, there's a guy in his day came and sat next to me, and his date looks over to me and says, "Okay, what's your story? You know, why am I wearing this outfit?" So I pull off my hat, put it back. I say, "Well, I was a helicopter pilot and I was shot down in Vietnam, and, penetrating head wound like that." And she looks at the bartender and he shakes his head. I didn't have to buy a drink the rest of the night.
Well, that's a good night.
So anyhow, I go back to Evans Army Heliport, and I got a new lieutenant colonel. That's my boss. That's the operations officer of the airfield,
Mm-hmm.
and he's captain of the golf team. And he says, "Okay, I'll play golf one afternoon. You watch the heliport. You play golf the next afternoon. I'll play it." So this is my second tour. Playing golf.
Yeah.
It's back to the routine. And then, after it was almost a year, I get a call from Pentagon saying, "Mike, you're due for another overseas corps." I said, "Okay." He says, "Okay, we'll give you a choice. You can go to Korea, or we'll send you back to Nam, but it's your choice." And that's when I reached into my pocket, pulled out a quarter, and I flipped it. And I said, "Heads, Vietnam, tails, Korea." Came up heads. And I said, send me back to Nam. And there was this like dead pause. And he said, Mike, well, you've been out of the saddle for a while. We're going to send you to Rucker to get a standards instrument ticket that, the FAA recognizes. He said, it's a gentleman course, it's 8 weeks. You go to classrooms in the morning, you fly in the afternoon. It's no biggie. It'll get you back.
Right.
So, so I went, and of course, everything, again, is right seat. Because most of their instruments are in the right seat. So, I did pretty well in this instrument course. And towards the end, I found out that there was another course that they were just starting. It was the Instrument Flight Examiner's course. And so I called the Pentagon and I said, hey, I'm doing really well in this instrument course. How about sending me to the Instrument Flight Examiner's course? And he said, well, Mike, that's for real serious pilots. I said, look, I'm doing really well. I know I can get through this program. He said, give me a call. A couple days, 2 days, whatever it was. So I called him. It was I think like a Wednesday or something. He says, Mike, here's the deal. You're going to take your check ride to get your instrument ticket on Friday. And on Monday, you're going to start the Instrument Flight Examiner's course. But instead of having 30 days to lay en route, you're only down to 20.
That's not bad.
Yeah. Do we have a deal? I said, deal.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So on Friday, I take my check ride. And the instrument flight examiner that they gave me just came back from Nam. And so we're flying, we get into actual weather. Not under the hood, but actual weather. And, and I'm doing okay and everything. So finally, he says, okay, you passed. Let's go into Montgomery to Alabama at the Municipal Airport and top off and fly back. So he says, I got it. So he calls and he gets a straight in ILS to whatever the runway was.
Yeah.
And so I noticed that he was kind of a little rusty because he hasn't done ILSs for quite a while. And man, I had these down. And I said, hey man, let me take this. So we're flying and we get to minimum descent altitude. And I looked at him, I said, let's be realistic, we're flying a helicopter. Let me walk it down a couple more 100 feet and see if we can see the runway. And sure enough, we saw the runway and landed. Well, when we went around the corner to check base ops and make arrangements for refueling, there were about 4 helicopters, all tied down. And we went in, base ops, and one of the Army pilots came over and said, hey, we just talked to Mother Rucker, and they told us everything's shut down to go get a motel and fly back in the morning.
Okay.
Okay, so here we are, we go to this motel. Now, before going to the flight line that day, I had applied for the American Express card.
All right.
It arrived. I opened it up and it, CAPT, Michael Bongart, Captain. Okay. So when we all go to the lounge,
Okay.
and there's this woman up there, long dark hair, saying, "Take this ribbon from my hair." And I called the waitress over and I said, "See all these guys wearing uniforms like mine? All their drinks are on me."
That might have been a mistake.
I said, I'm fine. I'm going back to
I'm
Nam.
joking,
I know,
yeah.
yeah. I'm single. And so, I didn't know who they were, and they're kind of like, thanking me. And,
Right.
so we fly back in the morning. Monday morning, I had a report, 0900. I walk in and there's about, I guess, 30 of us in the class. And all of a sudden, nothing's happening at 0900. And about 0915, this major comes stomping down the aisle. And he turns around and he says, "By God, I just got off with the Pentagon and I don't believe this. There's an individual in here that doesn't belong. He's never been an instructor pilot. He doesn't meet the minimum requirements for flying actual weather," and he went on. Plus, he's flying on 5 medical waivers. And I thought, holy, it's not me. Okay, then he started a roll call, and he went through the list. Any name I didn't call, and I said, "Sir, Captain Michael E. Bongart. Bongart, you've been reassigned to the afternoon class. Report back here at 1300 hours." Come back at 1300 hours. I walked in. And all those guys I was buying drinks for were instructor pilots for the instrument flight examiners training.
Okay.
And one of them came up to me and says, "Mike, you don't belong here. But we decided we're going to give you a shot. And we know that you don't have enough time, so we arranged that you can fly on weekends, and we'll help you, and you won't be charged for that time." And, you know, the effort I put forth and these guys working with me, you know, I really, and plus I have to fly from the left seat.
Yeah.
So I'm getting this left seat time, and they had me trained so well when they start pulling circuit breakers to all my instruments. I could take my dog tags and hang them on the knob of the OBS indicator or whatever it was, and the magnetic compass and the pressure in my feet, that I could fly instruments. That's how well we were trained.
That's amazing.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And yeah. And so when it came time for the check ride, one of the guys came up to me again that I had been by. He says, "Mike, none of us really want to evaluate you. But there's a guy that came down from Washington that wants to evaluate the course, and he's going to evaluate the course by one of the students we trained, and you're that student."
That's pressure.
And he said, "I feel if you bust the ride, you'll probably bust it on emergency procedures with when you pull circuit breaker and all your hydraulics are gone. It becomes really tough to handle, and it takes a lot of strength. And I don't have the strength in my left arm, and yet, but nor did I have the experience."
Right.
And I thought, okay, so they gave me, and which was kind of rare, they gave me, my job was to evaluate a student coming out of the instrument course, the one I just came out of.
Yeah.
And the evaluator is going to evaluate me, how I trained him, or evaluated him.
Right.
So what I did, I had all the frequencies, VORs, and everything in my head, and I created a situation for him in Vietnam. And I had set it up so that he would be thinking that he was flying VO in Vietnam, and I had him on intercom, and I was dealing with flight control and everything outside the helicopter. And so I gave him his check ride and everything. Let me say this. The guy was an Afro-American, and he was incredibly sharp. Very, very sharp. I mean, he made it easy for me. And and these guys knew it too. they wanted me to have somebody sharp.
Right.
Okay, so anyhow, we went up to Fort Benning, Georgia, Lawson Field, and the guy in the back seat from Pentagon, we went in for coffee, and he asked me how well my student did. I said, he did an excellent job. He says, and he said, you don't have to, he said, I'm really impressed how you set that up, but you didn't have to do that. You could just let them fly actual courses. But he said, that was kind of interesting. He said, now, on the way back, we're going to do the emergency procedures. I said, here it goes. Now, and I'll tell you, we take off, and I'm flying. He has me under the hood. Okay, there's a switch that I had to switch to go from one frequency to another, and all of a sudden I realized that, oh man, I got to flip that switch. And my pilot, my buddy pilot, he very casually flips the switch back. I could have busted the ride right there.
Yeah.
So anyhow, we're flying out, we're going up to altitude, and we hear Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. And all of a sudden, in the horizon, we see an Army chopper making an auto rotation to a field. So the major said, let's go over and check it out. So we flew over, and I don't have a hood on now or anything, so I land. And he says, let me see what's going on. So he gets out, and he's talking to him. He comes back, and 3 other guys are coming with him. And they all get on board. And we take off, and my evaluator in the back seat says, Mike, these guys have to get back to Rucker. And they left one guy with the ship. Rucker's going to send some maintenance crews out to check it out. He says, I don't want you doing actual emergency procedures because of the people on board.
Makes sense.
Okay, I'm just going to tell you what's the malfunction and tell me how to respond. Of course, I had all that down pat.
Right.
So anyhow, we get back, land, he writes me up, he says, I'm going to give you an 84. He said, only because you didn't actually do the emergency procedures.
Sounds like a win to me.
I am an instrument flight examiner.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize this, but I was told only 3% of aviators get to have this rating.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so I are, in essence, the top gun of instrument
Yeah.
flying. Okay, so 20 days delay en route. I'm in Nam. I get this assignment at Tuiwa Air Force Base, right on the South China Sea. I mean, you Air Force guys knew how to live. My billets, private room.
Oh, yeah.
I had my own bathroom shower facilities. I'm an officer. I'm a captain. Okay, sidewalks, and right across the street was the movie theater.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Around the corner was the base exchange. We got paved streets and curbs.
Mm-hmm.
I
All
go,
standard on Air Force bases, by the way.
yeah. I go report to my commander. He said, "Oh, great! You got an instrument flight examiner rating." Yeah. He says, "Okay, I'll tell you what. Yeah, take a couple days, come in, get settled, and come in." So I came in. I went down, got a surfboard, and was surfing the South China Sea. You know, hey,
Okay.
this is how I'm going to spend the second tour. Great. So I report for work. I think it was the money anyhow. He says, "Okay, Mike." He says, "I need you to give this guy a standards check ride." And I have to say to him, "Sir, I was never a standards pilot." He said, "What?" I said, no, I'm only an instrument flight examiner. He said, how did you get to become an instrument flight examiner when you were never a standard check ride pilot? He says, I can't use you. I can't have you sitting around here day after day only giving the instrument check rides. He says, I gotta find something else to do. So, a couple days later, orders. 61st Combat Assault Helicopter Company. I show up, and I was told to give this Army aviator standards check ride.
Okay.
And not being a standard flight instructor, I had to tell my boss that, yeah, I'm not qualified to do it. And that's when he just kind of like, wow. And the thing is, see, I had mentioned being on, I think it was 5 medical waivers. Okay, one of them was I could not solo a helicopter.
Okay.
2, if I flew, I had to fly with another rated individual,
What do you mean by that?
another pilot.
Oh, okay, so,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Okay, and 3, like, and he had to be, he or she had to be current in the aircraft.
Okay.
Okay, then every year I had to have a neurological evaluation, and I think they also threw in there electroencephalogram. And,
Okay.
yeah, check out my head. And,
That all seems to make sense.
oh yeah,
I mean, considering what you've been through.
yeah, and I was fortunate enough to get back on flight.
Right, yeah.
There I was, and then then the word came down after I this major found me another position in Vietnam, so another the 61st Combat Assault Helicopter Company,
Okay.
AAC, and I'll never forget when I showed up. The company came up and gave me a big hug and says, "Oh, I've been waiting for an operations officer with first tour experience." And he says, "You are my operations officer, and we got a big mission coming up in the near future." Okay, and got there, and again with this D-Rose thing, they our basic company area was built out of ammo crates and tarps and things like that, and not like you Air Force guys. And I thought, and I didn't have an air conditioned hooch, and of course routine and then showers, or they did separate the officers and enlisted men showers on the trains.
Oh, that was nice.
Yeah, that's okay. So anyhow, the guy I was replacing, Cliff White, he was getting ready to de-roast, and so he was showing me the ropes and the company area and everything about what was expected of me. And he was saying also, we got this big mission coming up, and what it was. Now, this is late May, early June, 1971.
Okay.
Okay, I'm back in country, and they're pulling all the American troops out of the field. Fire support bases, everything. We are downsizing Vietnam. And our assignment basically is provide direct combat support for the Vietnamese Army, and also right around the corner from it was Lane Army Hill Park, was a ROC battalion.
ROC meaning.
Republic of Korea.
Okay.
Okay, and so we flew combat support for them also. Now, so we did where this in essence mission was going to take place was on the west side of Phuket Air Force Base, which was only about 10 miles from where we were located. On the east side, it was nice, easy, calm country. So we did a rehearsal combat assault into the east side of Phuket.
Okay.
Okay. But we knew, and I was told that going on the west side, we could expect some problems.
Now,
Yeah.
does that bring any nervousness or fear? I mean, after what you've been through before, it had to have, you know.
Oh,
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'll tell you how nervous. And I thought, oh man. Okay. And, you know, I'm thinking, well, you flipped the coin, you decided, it was your call.
Yeah.
And yeah, okay, we'll see. And, you know, yeah, answering your story, yeah, I'm a bit nervous. Not like the first one.
Right.
Okay. So, and in the meantime, before the big operation, I was flying like ash and trash, and also it's my job, learning my job to assign crews and helicopters and missions and things like that, which operations officers do. Okay, now the big day of insertion, I flew Peter Prout, co-pilot, to Cliff White, who the operations officer I'm replacing. And for some reason, he decided to lead the second flight of 5. So we got 10 ships, got the first platoon and the second platoon going in. We picked up the Korean troops. Okay, and we're flying in, the gunships are going in, firing, and what right before it, command and control said the LZ is a little tight, we need 30-second separation. And first thought it went through my head was, done this before.
Yeah.
And just as the first flight's coming in, all hell breaks loose.
Right.
Okay. And I think it was either Chalk 3 or 4 in the first flight, pancakes right into the LZ. And the rotor blade hit the fuselage, bounces off. And so Cliff came in, landed right behind, and he said to the door to gunners, go get them. So they got out, and the crew was pretty well shaken up. But the pilot, the AC, Mike Wilson, took her round straight between the eyes. KIA. And they brought him over, threw him on the helicopter. Now, while I'm sitting there, you know, I look off to my right, and out about 30 yards from me, out pops a VC. And we stare each other down. And I reached down, I put my hand on my pistol, I said, you point that at me and we're going to have it out. And he did a 180 and took off.
That's great.
Really?
That's great, yeah. You didn't have to deal with it.
Yeah. I thought, you know, it's, you're going to try to kill me, I'm going to try to kill you.
Amen, yeah. No one can fault you for that, I don't think, so.
No. So anyhow, Cliff again is at the controls, flies to a hospital. I don't know which one it was nearby, and they come over and they grab him and pull him off, and his head drops down, and I can see right down where he took the round.
Mm-hmm.
There's blood all over everywhere, and they lay him on the stretcher. And so we talk off and called command and control, and they said go to a fire support base. We're going to figure out what we're going to do here. And so while we're sitting at this fire support base, thunderstorm comes up, and the lightning strikes, hits the ammo dump,
Oh,
and blows it up.
yeah, that's never good.
And I thought, my God, you know, what next? You know? And finally, you know, they told us just, you know, they're calling everybody in, just come back to the Hunter Army, or Lane Army heliport. So we flew back and everybody's waiting for us. You know, I'll never forget, we landed. And they came, and they saw this blood all over where I had to back the helmet all over the windscreen, and I heard some of that, yeah, they're crazy guys, they're stupid guys, you know, and walking through, and it like parting the waters and started up the road to my hoods, and I just said, damn, this is exciting. You know, such an adrenaline rush.
I couldn't imagine.
Like, and also, like, I'm still alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, it really shook me up, because first tour, I'm invisible, and now I know I am so vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I really struggled with that. And then here I am, okay, I'm the third ranking officer in this company, I gotta keep my cool. And so, you know, I'm doing my job, making assignments, things like that. And I did a lot of flying with our company commander, Major Matt Cambrad, really great guy, West Point graduate. And one day we were flying, and we were coming down altitude, and I had this like sharp pain go down the back of my neck from where I had the wound going down. And it happened a couple of times, and I said something to Major Matt, and he says, why don't you go over to the hospital and have a flight surgeon or somebody check it out. So I went over and saw a flight surgeon, and he started reading my records. He looked at me, he says, I can ground you right now. And I said, no. No. And so we talked a little bit more. I was getting ready to leave, and he said, again, I can ground you right now. I said, no. So I left. And it got to the point, a couple days later, and things were so screwed up the second tour.
Yeah.
We had a racial problem. 30% of our company was black or African American. And there's tension between the guys from the South and all this, and we had problems with marijuana and juicers, and you know, and you see, I know it was different than you guys, but we had alcohol anytime we wanted it.
Yeah.
And especially being a commissioned officer with access to the helicopter, I had no problem. My drink of choice was Beefeater's gin and tonic.
Okay.
And with lime, and that's what I drank my second tour, complemented with Darvon Com 65. And the point, I was so rattled by, and oh yeah, what I wanted to point out, we had to turn our arms in the arms room every night, everyone in the company area, except those on perimeter security.
Right.
Because afraid of killing each other.
Alcohol, firearms.
And tension.
Yeah, it's not a good combination.
Yeah, and so, well, came back from flying one day, and I didn't turn my weapon in. And I waited till it was dark. Went down the flight line. Pulled up my snub nose 38. Held it to my head. And the thing is, you know, having had a penetrating head wound, I knew there's no pain.
Right.
I'm not going to feel it. And all of a sudden, I just looked up at the sky and said, God help me. And the answer was, your ego is too great for this. Egotistically, I couldn't pull the trigger.
Well, I'm glad that you didn't.
Well, the thing is, you know, I almost made it the first time. And I think I would have made it the second time. But seriously, well, anyhow, so it wasn't too long after that. I was flying a national transmission, not support, you know,
Right.
and came back late. It was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Landed, and the crew chief needed some help with his helicopter doing some maintenance work, so I said, I'll stay back and give you a hand. Well, I don't know, about 15 minutes later, this Jeep with a Spec 4 comes driving up, and he said, sir, you better get up to the company area, they're gonna kill Wetzel. Wetzel was my door gunner that day on the helicopter I was flying.
Okay.
And yeah, and you know, he shot up the company area, and they're going to get him. You know. So when I got to the company area, I saw the battalion first sergeant handing out M16s to all these senior NCOs. And from what I gathered, Wetzel came back and found out that his hoochmate was fooling around one of the black guys. So he started shooting at all the blacks he could shoot at. Plus he went up and put a couple rounds through the battalion first sergeant's headquarters office. And man, and I saw the look in the battalion first sergeant's face, and they were going to kill this guy. Well, what he did, he went up and he got in a bunker. There's a big hill between our company area and the Yo Club at the top. Okay. In the middle of it had a bunker, and he took up position in that bunker, and all the senior NCOs surrounded it with their M16s. So I took off my sidearm, set my hat down on it. I thought, well, if Wetzel wants to do it, he can do it. But I walked in between the circle of NCOs, started up the hill, talking to Wetzel, saying, you better give me your weapon. Better give me your weapon. And I did it easily.
Yeah.
And then when I got to him, I said, give me the M16. He gave it to me. And I grabbed him by the shirt collar, jacket, and had the M16 in one hand, and I started walking down the hill. And came up to the battalion first sergeant. I handed him his rifle. And I said, I'm taking him to the hospital for psychiatric evaluation. Took him down, put him on a helicopter, flew him to the hospital.
Yourself?
Yeah. Well, I had another guy crank up the helicopter.
Well,
yeah.
You flew him, is what I was getting at.
Yeah, I flew him.
You know, you very well saved that man's life.
Yeah.
That's...
Yeah.
Wow, that's...
And our company commander, Matt, was in Hawaii.
On R&R?
Yeah. Now, I have to tell you this. You know, we became pretty good friends. And I knew he was going to Hawaii, and I knew that he wanted me to fly on the Cameron Gray to catch the bird to take him to Hawaii. So somehow I got a hold of this glossy photograph.
Okay.
It was a beautiful woman on a diving board, bathing suit. And I started researching handwriting. I wanted to find a guy that had very nice handwriting that could possibly pass for a woman.
Okay.
Okay, I found this one, Spec 4, and I sat him down. I said, you write this to my darling Matt. Thank you for the most wonderful time in Sydney. Love, Sandy. And I folded it up, and I took his gear down, put it on the helicopter, and got in. And he had one of his sneakers and covered with his sock, and I put it in the toe of the sneaker. Well, when he came back, I was down at the company area, and the guy came down, says, the major wants to see you. So I went, he looked at me, he says, damn you, Bongart, you almost cost me my marriage.
Oh. Oh.
He said they were sitting on the bed, and he felt this in his shoe, and he pulled it out and opened it up, and his wife was right there.
Oh, I bet she almost. Oh. Oh. That is funny, though. That is funny. Wow.
Oh, yeah, and I just thought of another story.
Please.
Okay, between tours, Bobby Hernan, my lawyer friend, and I'm driving through Savannah.
Okay.
All of a sudden, I'm at a red light, I hear this honking. I said, what's this guy's problem? I look, and it's Bobby telling me to pull over. So I pull over, and he says, you want to go to Las Vegas? Yeah. I mean, I said, well, if I get leave or anything.
Yeah.
He says, well, let me talk to your commanding officer. And so, and the way he explained this, he and another lawyer were going to go on this junket, all expense paid for, rooms in that MGM Grand, the whole 9. They were high rollers.
Okay.
Okay. At the last minute, his lawyer buddy had a case come up, he couldn't go. So he wanted to take me in his place. So Bobby called my commanding officer. Both these guys are from the South. And,
Yeah.
hey, let me take this yank out to Las Vegas, show me. And they're going back and forth and everything. And Commander put me on. He says, go ahead, Mike. I'll take care of it. Yeah. So we go back to Bobby's office, and he says, wait. And he's waiting till like about 4:45. And he called Dun and Brown or whatever it is, called some outfit and he saw, yeah, he owns a couple of apartments and things like that, and tell him all my assets and lie them through his state and everything to get me on this junket. And sure enough, okay, I accepted. So we go down to Jacksonville, take off, and all of a sudden I look out, and hydraulic problems. And the thing is, I said, something's not right. And then we got diverted to Atlanta.
Okay.
Okay, and we're burning fuel. And I'm drinking gin and tonics. And Bobby looks at me and says, oh, you've been through in Vietnam and you drink all that? I said, Bobby, I barely got out of Vietnam. I don't want to die on the
On a plane to Vegas.
I don't want to die, in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so finally, all right, when I get enough fuel was burned off and everything, made the approach, and the fire trucks are coming out alongside of us and everything, touches down. And after I got out, a couple of pilots were looking at the nose gear, and
Yeah.
and I went over and talked to them, and they said, we had green lights on the main landing gear. He says, but the nose wheel was only about 2/3 down. We didn't have a green light. And so we made a couple flybys tower, and we were able to crank it down, but we still didn't have a green light, so we didn't know if we had a nose gear or not.
Yeah.
So everything was, anyhow, we went out to Las Vegas.
Okay.
This is how my life goes. I'm having a great time, because everything's paid for.
Right, how couldn't you?
I mean, my room's paid for, the meals are paid for, and I lost $400, but what the heck, Anyhow, I got on the elevator, and there's this guy in the military uniform. And I look over. Slaughter.
Oh, no.
I said, Dr. Slaughter, Walter Reed. He looked at me and says, yeah. I said, I was one of your patients.
That's great.
I said, can I buy you a drink?
Yeah.
So we got off, and I told him, and he says, well, I wish you well, and things like that.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, so that's another bizarre story.
Yeah.
Okay, now back in now, and Nate, I'm really struggling, and the neurosurgeon or a flight surgeon, offered me a ticket. I couldn't take it. I mean, again, my ego.
I understand, yeah.
And then with this thing with Vetzel, it's I guess I saved his life.
No, you did.
So anyhow, after Matt got done chewing me out about almost destroying marriage, it was about a week later. Matt wants to see me again. Okay, I go in, and he shows me this letter that was sent from the commanding general of the 1st Aviation Brigade through channels, thanking me for what I did.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's in a pile of paperwork that Eric has, but that. And Matt was trying to get me to apply for a branch transfer, and he was going to work on getting me a regular officer's commission. See, I was only a reserve officer.
Okay.
Okay. And he felt that, I could go through the bootstrap program and become a real officer. And so, I was kind of interested in that. And then there's the time when tension was really high in the company, and it's because Colonel Anderson, the Hunter, the heliport commander, Lane Army Heliport, shut down the massage parlor and Matt, the West Point graduate, came to me and says, Mike, the tension is so high in this company, we got to do something to release it. And then that's when he said, I want you to get the first sergeant and take a warrant officer with you and go downtown to Queen Yan and get 25 ladies of the evening. Now, I had no knowledge of procuring ladies of the evening, so to speak, but interestingly, our first sergeant did. And the warrant officer I took with us, Gary Butler, was kind of a naive guy, and I thought, I'll give him a little experience here.
Okay.
So we got the deuce and a half, and it was covered.
It would have to be, yeah.
And so we went to the gate, and we got stopped by the MPs, and they kind of got word that what was going on. And one of the MPs said to me, he says, "Okay, make sure that every one of them has an ID card." Okay. So we drive into Queen Anne, and we stop, and I follow Top into this kind of like restaurant thing, and he meets Mama San, and they start negotiating. And he's saying 25 ladies, want them in mini skirts, not the regular Oriental dress.
Yeah.
Okay. And they must have ID cards. And then she said, "Okay, you come back a few hours." Okay, so we go out, we have dinner and all that. Now we pull up, and here they are. And do they all have ID cards? Yes. So put them in the truck, and we drive. We get stopped by the MP going on to Lane Army Heliport, and this one MP came up to me and says, "Well, sir, you have 25 ladies with 25 ID cards. They don't all match, but that's okay." So now drove down to the maintenance hangar.
Yeah.
And what Matt had set up was the helicopter, that little brothel units, okay, kind of. And then in middle hangar was the dance floor. We had a guy spinning records, and we had booze there. And when the financial officer found out about this, he said, "You can't pay him in military pay certificates, MPC. You had to pay them in their local currency, piastre." And so he had a financial exchange officer making exchanges, changing money. And then when the flight surgeon found out about it, he sent a man down. So every financial transaction that occurred, he dropped a pack of prophylactics on top of it.
Well-oiled operation.
Yeah, I mean, and a good time was had by all, except the officers were not participating, warrant officers, pilots were not, and everybody had a good time. Nobody got hurt.
That's good.
And
intentions had been
yeah,
settled.
But and I'm thinking, man, this guy's a West Point graduate, man. He's got a pair. But he was a people person. He cared about his troops.
Yeah, he knew what needed to happen.
Yeah.
And he got it done.
Yeah. And so, and then there was, I remember one mission that Matt called and said, "We got to go to the battalion headquarters for a big mission." And we were being briefed. There's the OV-10 Mohawk, twin engine, side-looking radar aircraft.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay. Flying at 10,000 feet, and to an area southwest of us at 10,000 feet was taking fire. And they figured it was from a radar-controlled gun.
I was going to say, how is it taking fire? Because that's
Yeah.
quite an altitude.
Yeah, and so it was decided, we're going to go get that gun.
Yeah.
And this was a big operation, and Matt was command and control of it, and I flew right seat, and he flew left. And so while he was working the radios, I was doing the flying, and we had several regular assault helicopter companies, plus we had a couple CH-47 Chinooks with troops and equipment on board and everything. And I thought, man, this is going to be really interesting. So we're flying out, and when we got about halfway there, Matt says, "I got the controls." Takes the controls, pull pitch, and starts walking it out. He was going out to see if he could draw fire from that gun.
He knew how to take care of his people. He was taking care of his
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah. I thought, okay, I'm with you. I would have followed him to hell and back, seriously. He was that kind of a leader. And I'm sitting there, okay, no problem with